The forest was still dark when Lina's boots pressed into the damp earth. Dawn hadn't broken yet, but she couldn't afford to wait for the sun. The axe felt heavier than usual in her hands. Or maybe it was just her exhaustion finally catching up. She wiped her forehead with the back of her hand and kept walking deeper into the woods. Behind her, in their small cottage at the edge of Ashwood Village, her mother Mira lay in bed, coughing through the night. The medicine was expensive. The firewood had to be collected. The money had to be sent to Brightgate City by the end of the week. Evan's tuition was due, and he was counting on her. She swung the axe into a fallen branch, the sound echoing through the empty forest. 2 years. She'd been doing this for 2 years now. Every morning before sunrise, every evening after dark. Her hands were calloused, her back ached constantly, but she never complained. Not to Evan, not to anyone. "You're killing yourself for him," Mira had said last night, her voice weak but firm. "I'm helping him build a future, Mama," Lina had replied, tugging the blanket around her mother's frail body. "Our future." Mira had looked at her with those knowing eyes. "Love should lift you up, child, not break you down piece by piece." Lina had kissed her mother's forehead and said nothing. What could she say? That she believed Evan would come back? That once he graduated with his engineering degree, he'd return to Ashwood and they'd finally start the life they dreamed about as children? That all this sacrifice would mean something? She believed it. She had to. The pile of firewood grew as the sun finally crept over the horizon. Lina loaded the bundles onto her cart, her muscles screaming in protest. She thought about Evan in his dormitory in Brightgate City, probably still sleeping in a warm bed, surrounded by textbooks and dreams of skyscrapers and machinery. She smiled despite her exhaustion. He was doing what he loved. That's what mattered. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. Her heart leapt. Evan. But when she pulled it out, her smile faded slightly. Just a notification about a payment she'd sent last month. No message from him. Again. The calls had become less frequent over the past 6 months. At first, he'd phone every evening, excited about his classes, about the city, about the future they'd share. Then it became every other day, then once a week. Now she was lucky if he responded to her messages at all. "I'm just really busy, Lina," he texted 2 weeks ago. "Finals are coming up. You understand, right?" She understood. Of course she understood. The city was demanding. His studies were important. She pushed the cart toward the market, ignoring the ache in her chest that had nothing to do with physical exhaustion. In Brightgate City, 300 miles away, Evan stood in front of a mirror, adjusting his collar. The apartment he shared with 3 other engineering students was modest but clean, nothing like the cramped dormitory he'd started in. He'd moved up in the world, or at least that's what it felt like. "Evan, are you coming?" Clarice's voice drifted from the living room. "We're going to be late for Marcus's party." 2 minutes, he called back, running a hand through his hair. Clarice appeared in the doorway, stunning in a black dress that probably cost more than Lina's entire month of firewood sales. Not that Evan thought about that comparison. He trained himself not to. "You look handsome," Clarice said, stepping close to adjust his tie. Her perfume was expensive, sophisticated. Everything about her was refined in ways that made Ashwood Village feel like a distant memory from someone else's life. "Thanks," he said, grabbing his jacket. "Let's go." In the car, Clarice's car, sleek and new, she glanced at him. "Your phone keeps buzzing." Evan pulled it out. 3 messages from Lina. He swiped them away without reading. "Is that your friend from back home again?" Clarice asked, her tone carefully neutral. "Yeah, just checking in. You should tell her you're busy. It's not fair to her, keeping her hanging on like that." Evan stared out the window at the glittering city lights. "I will. Soon." But he wouldn't. Every time he thought about having that conversation, about telling Lina that he changed, that the city had changed him, that she didn't fit into this new life he was building, something stopped him. Guilt, maybe. Or cowardice. Probably both. The months passed like seasons in Ashwood. Predictable, relentless. Lina's routine never changed. Firewood in the morning, market in the afternoon, taking care of Mira in the evening, sending money to Evan whenever she'd saved enough. Her mother's condition stabilized but never truly improved. The local doctor could only do so much. "How's Evan?" Mira would ask sometimes, and Lina would lie. "He's wonderful, Mama. Working so hard, he'll graduate soon." She didn't mention the growing silence. She didn't mention how his rare messages had become formal, distant, like he was responding to a stranger. She definitely didn't mention the social media photos she'd seen, accidentally, she told herself, of Evan at parties, surrounded by people she didn't recognize, smiling in ways she hadn't seen in years. In one photo, his arm was around Clarice's waist. Lina had stared at that image for an hour before deleting the app from her phone. She didn't need to see. She chose not to know. Ignorance felt safer than truth. Then came the invitation. It arrived via email, formal and impersonal. Brightgate Technical University's graduation ceremony. She wasn't sure how she'd gotten on the list. Maybe Evan had added her months ago, back when he still remembered she existed. But seeing it felt like a sign. This was it, the moment everything had been building toward. He'd graduate, come home, and their real life together would finally begin. Lina spent 3 days knitting a scarf in Evan's favorite color, blue, like the summer sky over Ashwood. Her fingers worked the yarn later into the nights while Mira slept. Each stitch a prayer, a hope, a promise to herself that this would all be worth it. "Are you sure about this?" Mira asked the morning Lina prepared to leave for Brightgate. "I'm sure, Mama." Lina kissed her mother's cheek, the scarf folded carefully in her bag. "I'll be back tomorrow. Mrs. Chen will check on you." The bus ride to Brightgate took 6 hours. Lina watched the landscape transform from forest and fields to concrete and glass. The city rose before her like a monument to everything she wasn't, polished, loud, expensive. She clutched her bag tighter, suddenly aware of her worn jacket and scuffed shoes. The graduation ceremony was held in a massive auditorium that could have swallowed Ashwood Village's entire square. Lina found a seat in the back, scanning the sea of graduates in their caps and gowns. Then she saw him, Evan, older somehow, more confident. He stood with a group of students, laughing at something someone had said. Next to him was the girl from the photos, Clarice, even more beautiful in person. Lina's heart hammered as she made her way down after the ceremony ended. Graduates posed for photos with family members. Joy and celebration everywhere. She pushed through the crowd, clutching the scarf. "Evan!" He turned. For a split second, something crossed his face. Surprise, discomfort, maybe guilt. Then he smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Lina! Wow, I didn't know you were coming. I wanted to surprise you. I made this for you. Congratulations." He took it, barely glancing at it. That's really nice. Thank you." Clarice stepped closer, her hand sliding possessively into Evan's. "Aren't you going to introduce us?" The ground shifted beneath Lina's feet. She saw the ring then, small but elegant, on Clarice's finger. "This is Clarice," Evan said, his voice tight. "My fiancé." The word hit like a physical blow. Fiancé. Lina's mouth opened, but no sound came out. The auditorium noise faded to a distant hum. She looked at Evan, searching his face for the boy she'd loved since they were children, the boy she'd sacrificed everything for. "Fiancé," she repeated, the word foreign on her tongue. "When?" "2 months ago," Clarice answered, when Evan didn't. She smiled, but it was sharp. It was a beautiful proposal, very romantic. 2 months. While Lina had been sending money for his final semester, while she'd been telling her sick mother that Evan was working